for joining us. Fanatics U. We are here at the American Airlines Center. I just wanted to get, for the people that don't know, I wanted to get your initial story, how you became the Mavs PA announcer, and just kind of your career journey to that point and what it's been like since.
Okay. Gosh, I've told this story before. I'll give you the short version.
Please.
Because one thing that no one has ever said to me is, do you have anything you'd like to add? No one's ever asked me that question, so I'll try and keep this short. I was waiting in the carpool lane to pick up my son one day from school, and I was listening to a sports station here in town, and one of the guys announced that Humble Billy Hayes was leaving, and the Mavericks were going to have open auditions. So I called, got scheduled to have an audition. I ended up coming down here. I think they had like 50 or so audition live on the floor of the AAC, or of AAC. It's not the AAC, it's AAC. And they narrowed it down to 10, narrowed it down to 6, narrowed it down to 2. And I got to do a regular preseason game. I got to do a regular season game. The first actual NBA game I announced, 2009, Utah Jazz. We were down 17 in the first half, and Dirk scored 29 points in the fourth quarter. That's the first game I ever announced. We won. The second game I announced was against Houston. We were down 16 in the first half. We ended up winning that game, and I thought, this has a chance to be something. The first full season, the next season, the 2010-2011 season, was my first full season where I did all the games, and the Mavs won the championship. That was pretty sweet. That was enjoyable. And then we've just been fighting to get back ever since. So I'm getting ready to start my 13th season, sitting at that table at the best seat in the building, even better than Mark's because he's way down on the baseline. See you, Mark. I have the best seat in the building, and as a fan who just has loved this team from day one, come on, man. There's no place better.
Just curiosity too, I'm sure you've been asked about this before, but the extension on your announcements of players, was Dirk the first one you would do that for?
Yeah, Dirk was, I've been talking on microphone since I was 16 years old. So I've been loud and amplified most of my life. Most people say the amplification isn't necessary because the only other phrase no one has ever said to me is, could you speak up a little? So with Dirk, it just happened, the growl. I'm a tenor, so I have a really high voice, especially when I get excited, which is always at a Mavs game. And the growl is just something that happened organically just to try and protect people's eardrums. I have a really loud, very clear voice, and the growl just sort of happened. It just felt right, and now I'll play around during a season, during a player's first couple of games, if they're new to the team, and just kind of see what feels right, and then everything else just happens. Some things stick and some things don't.
And coming in, being fresh and almost as soon as you get here, the Mavs win a championship.
Well, I'm not saying it was me, but I'm totally saying I had a role to play.
What were your?
That's the stupidest thing anyone has ever said. Thank you.
What were your fondest memories of 2011?
Getting to have pictures taken of my kids holding the trophy. That was pretty sweet. And getting to see Dirk finally get the respect that all Mavs fans had given him for his whole career. Getting to see the rest of the NBA world finally show him the love that he deserved as the generational revolutionary player that he was. The great players usually in this sport they're not heralded. They're not really given that love from the population in general until after they retire. You look at the reverence that all of these players in the league have for Bill Russell or Kareem or Wilt or Michael, Kobe. These guys were giants. And yes, some people were hyperbolic during their careers, but the greatest players ever They just showed up and did work. And that was Dirk from day one. He was the ultimate gym rat. And to see him get the respect from everyone that he deserved, that was a pretty great moment.
And even with the accolades on the court, Dirk's an outstanding guy off the court as well. Do you have a favorite kind of memory with him or interaction with him?
Dirk freaked me out for like the first, I don't know, I can't even remember how many years it was before I actually had the nerve to speak to him. And I don't get starstruck, but there's just something about Dirk. He's just such a dude that I don't know. I mean, maybe I felt like I was intruding. Like I didn't want to, he's got his own thing going, and I'm going to say something stupid and be a ridiculous fanboy, and I want Dirk to think I'm cool. So I'll just let him walk by with his plate, going into the locker room before the game. Like, I don't want to, and I didn't even make eye contact with him, no lie. At the table, pre-tip, I didn't make eye contact with Dirk until maybe his second to last season. Out of superstition, I didn't want to, if that was the game he got hurt, I would blame myself, like I jinxed him by breaking the routine. So it was a self-fulfilling sort of, it had its own momentum. Like, don't look at him. He's walking by. All right, let's go, boys. And don't look at him. Be busy. Write something. It was so, and that's what happened. And I think he knew that he freaked me out, or that I was overwhelmed. And he was the kindest. Just like, I remember the night of his last game, his last home game. I was out by the dock when he came walking in past all of the AAC employees, and he was high-fiving everybody. I mean, he walked the entire dock. He didn't pull up and park right by the security. He walked the entire dock, and he was high-fiving. Everybody was cheering, and I was just standing there just enjoying that moment. And as he walked by, he looked at me and said, "You ready for this?" "Yeah, Dirk, I'm ready." And he said, "All right, let's go. Have a good one." And I'm like, that's everything, man. The greatest, the GOAT, just said, "Are you ready?" He asked me my question, "Are you ready for this?" I'm like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I am ready. I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to quit. Inside monologue. But yeah, I'm absolutely ready. I was ready. And that was just an amazing moment. It really was.
How emotional was that night when you look back?
It was bad. It was bad. I teared up during the starting lineups, but I was able to hold it together. And at the end of the game, Mavs win. That was brutal. And then just to watch him with those legends show up and just the disbelief on his face. I mean, I don't care. I'm not afraid of you. You're not the boss of me. I cried. Deal with it. Yeah, I cried. I mean, it's sunny and 85 degrees outside right now, and just thinking about that night, I get goosebumps. It's one of the, aside from the birth of my kids, that night is one of the most bittersweet moments ever of anything I've been an actual part of. It was indescribable. And I know a lot of words. It's hard to describe that night.
And is it surreal for you, from your perspective, to go from Dirk to Luka just like that?
I realized the moment that we drafted him that something special was happening. Number one, I'm still stunned that trade took place. It has to be one of the most lopsided trades in NBA history. And we're only getting ready to go into the fourth season in. And I knew about Luka because I have some friends who live in Spain. It's a long story, but the short version is I knew about Luka before anybody in the NBA was talking about Luka because I had friends who were associated with the Barcelona. And so they played against him, and they knew, and they said, this kid's something. And so, in YouTube, you can't hide anything anymore. There should not be any more surprises in the NBA anymore. You've seen these kids since they were 14 years old. You know who's a player and you know who's not. And the fact that anybody is surprised by what Luka is doing, I knew he was coming, and I'm surprised. Because, there's no way. He's not going to be able to do that against NBA players. Yeah, he is. And I said this in an interview for NBA 2K22, and I said that I am fortunate enough to have been part of the last 10 years of Dirk and the beginning of Luka. Most teams in the NBA don't get one legendary player in their history, and we got 2 back-to-back. And Luka is revolutionizing the way basketball is played. He's just something different. I've even said Luka plays basketball like he's playing jazz. He plays basketball like that. And if you have seen any interviews that Holger Geschwender did, he looks at basketball the same way. He looks at basketball like jazz. You have to know all the basics and have them cold, which allows you to ad lib. And Luka has that already. That kid has worked so hard to be what he is. At one point, I almost wanted to start calling him the natural. And a very close friend of mine said, that kid's worked too hard to be where he is. Yes, he has natural gifts, but he's not just playing on those gifts. He's working to improve them every single day. So to call him a natural is almost an insult, because it's not. He makes it look easy. That kid did not fall into what he's doing. He earned it.
Well said. And like the Dirk extension on the announcement, the Luka announcement has become a iconic thing from your voice. Did that come naturally as well? Just the extension of it?
Well, just from a vocal standpoint, from an energy standpoint, the I in Dirk doesn't take a ton of air to stretch it out, so it's a lot easier. Well, the ooh in Luka is the same way. It's a very natural sound. It's a very natural shape to just hold it. So all you have to do is just make sure you get enough air before you start it. Let's see how long you can go.
Yeah. Have you had any conversations with him about it?
Yeah. No. No. I'm letting him do his own thing. Again, he's 22, and I don't want to harsh his vibe, man. I'll let him do his thing, and I'll do my thing until he tells me he doesn't like my thing that I'm doing. Then I'll stop immediately doing my thing and do a different thing. He's just, it's. The first 2 or 3 years in the league, I tried to force nicknames and catchphrases and calls, and it just felt forced, And so now, most of the things I say, I try not to plan them. I try to say, and I'll try it one time, maybe in a preseason game. I'll try it in a game in January, on a Tuesday, and I'll just drop something, and you can tell immediately, and it's not based on how the crowd responds. You can tell once you hear it over the PA system, you're like, oh, that kind of works, or nope, delete, never saying that again. And you just mark it down, and okay, that didn't work. And then eventually, hopefully, you build up a little bit of a library that you can call on stuff, and
Yeah, and you just kind of mentally store that?
Yeah, you're like, oh, that was fun. I enjoyed that. And then you never forget it. And hopefully, it's not too super annoying to everybody in the building. Well, hopefully it's not too super annoying for Mavs fans. For opposing players and TV announcers that are like national, I hope it annoys them. I really hope they know that they're in our house, it's a Mavs game, and this is how we get down.
Well, I was gonna ask you too, is there, it's kind of a weird question, but is there a favorite away player to pronounce or announce?
Oh, no. No. Because I don't care about them until they're a free agent and they're wearing that. I do not care about any player in this league until they're wearing a Mavs jersey. Now, former Mavericks, like when Jay Crowder comes to town, it's hard not to give him some love on the microphone. But I just can't do it, man. It's my building. It's my house. These are my guys. I love you, but you're in an enemy jersey, man. I couldn't root for Jet when he came back with Boston. Come on, man. The only exceptions that I've made are when Tyson Chandler came back, And when he would check into a game for an opposing team, the first time he checked in, now on the floor for the New York Knicks, number 6, Mr. Tyson Chandler. And that's all I give him. I didn't give him energy, but I gave him the respect of Mr. Vince Carter, as a former Maverick, I did that for him when he came in with the Hawks. And then I believe I did that once with Jay when he came back into town. But other than that, no, I can't give any energy to any opposing players. I just can't.
Do you ever get any heckles or anything from other players?
You know what? It's funny because I think it was Kenyon Martin who, man, probably the biggest embarrassment, 2 biggest embarrassments of my career, just so you don't have to ask. Early on, second or third season, we're playing the Spurs, and we timekeeper Mike Perlmeter, who had been there for like 30 years. Duncan's going to the free throw line, and as I'm saying, and I was wearing my headset on my right ear at the time, and as I'm saying, now going to the line for 2 shots, I hear in my left ear from Mike, he says, George Gervin. And I said, George Gerp, and I caught myself. I'm like, Mike, Tim Duncan, and I fixed it, and I immediately switched my headset over to my left ear and wore it on that side ever since. The other mistake that I made, I don't really know that it was a mistake, but the other sort of error that I made was early on, second or third season, before I really kind of got a handle on everything, we were playing Denver. And Kenyon Martin, who is from Dallas, who I've known about his entire career, the entire first half, I called him Kenyon Martin. The entire first half, and did not realize I was doing it. He came out for warm-ups for the second half, and he comes over, he sits down on the table, and he goes, hey, man, it's Kenyon. And I'm like, yeah, man, I know. And my scorekeeper and the clock operator go, yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he says, you've been calling him Kenyon the entire first half. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And all 3 of them like, mm-hmm. I was mortified. I could not believe it. And I apologized. I said, Kenyon, man, I am so sorry. He goes, it's cool. Internally, I was thinking, please don't kill me, because it's Kmart. I'm so sorry, man. I wasn't trying to disrespect you at all. Other than that, I've been very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to not have made any critical errors like that. I've made mistakes announcing an incorrect basket because I was blocked by a coach and I didn't see who let the ball go. But that happens to everybody. Every announcer in the league's had that mistake. Especially with some of these new jerseys. Some of these alternate jerseys, like the contrast is bad or the font is horrible and you can't tell a 9 from a 6 from an 8. I'm like, you're killing me, man. Think about me. It's not just about jersey sales. Come on, man.
And we were talking about it. You missing games last year. It was bizarre being in the building and not hearing your
I didn't enjoy it. Not a fan.
What was that like for you to miss games?
I hated it. So up to last season, the first 11 seasons, I only missed 5 games in the regular season, or at all. I just don't miss games. I don't get sick. I've been very lucky. And this season, I'd missed 7 games in the first 11 seasons, and this year I went in the hospital with COVID the Friday before Easter. And because of the protocols and everything with the NBA, I missed the games while I was in the hospital. And then I had to have negative tests for I couldn't get a negative test until 14 days after I got out of the hospital, not from when I tested positive. Because I tested positive and didn't go in the hospital for a week because I thought, it's fine. I'll be fine. Narrator, he was not fine. So, yeah, I didn't enjoy missing those games at all. And I kind of hope, I think people noticed. I kind of hope people noticed I wasn't there, hopefully. I definitely noticed it. I was not that's my seat, man. I don't like people sitting in my chair, touching my stuff, talking on my microphone. I do not share well with others. I don't. That's not my jam.
Right on. But that first playoff game back with all the fans, that reactions, those reactions, how electric was that?
It's one of the loudest environments I've ever been in. And I work Cowboys games. And it was, I would have to say it was as loud at the timeout at the end of the run. It was as loud in that building as I had heard since maybe Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. I mean, it was insane how loud it was. Everybody was just, and I know why. Number one, first home playoff game in a long time. The Mavericks were playing extremely well, and everybody had been cooped up. We had not seen a live Mavericks home game since March 13th of 2019 or 2020.
11th. March
Well,
11th.
no, we hadn't seen a live Mavs game.
Here we go.
Since March of 2020.
Yeah.
And to get to have a playoff, it was crazy. It was just this weird mix of everybody getting out, the family being back together. MFFL originally stood for Mavs Fan for Life. I like to think of it as Mavs Family for Life, because you see somebody wearing some Mavs gear walking down the street and you're like, what's up? You don't even have to say anything. You're just like, you know. I don't have to say it, you know. And then to get a bunch of, come on, son, in the building, it was fantastic. And I stayed out of the way. It was great. I didn't have to do anything. I'm like, so what do y'all think? It was crazy. Applesauce. I could have said anything on the microphone. It was great. It was fantastic.
And speaking of just the shutdown and everything, how bizarre was the Denver Nuggets game, the last, when the NBA shut down, we came out for the second half.
We were at the table. We kind of were keeping up. We didn't know that was going to happen, but we knew the Oklahoma City game had been delayed because we all have phones. We have timeouts and Twitter and stuff, and we're like, hey, they haven't started in OKC yet. And one of my guys said, yeah, they haven't told anybody officially. Why? I said, what do you think's going on? He goes, I don't know. And then around second quarter, rumors started to sort of bounce around. And then in the third quarter, Woj dropped the bomb. And then we saw Scott Tomlin showing Mark on his phone that the NBA had suspended the season. And Mark's face, like, what? The meme, right? Yeah. And at that point, we knew we're the last game because they had already canceled all the West Coast games. We're the last NBA game for right now before whatever happens. And to win that game, Boban had just a magnificent game. It was sad to know that the season was about to change. We didn't know what it was going to be, but to know that it was about to change was sad. But to be able to end it on a winning note, and like, okay, good. There's a sense of resolution. Like, okay, no matter what happens, we won our last home game, and okay, now let's see what's next.
NBA 2K. Can you tell the people how this came about and just?
It's about time. What have y'all been waiting on? It was very cool to get to be a part of that project. I found out about it in December when 2K reached out to me, and it was hard keeping quiet. You may not have known I like to talk. Is that obvious? Is that coming through? Because I really wanted to come through in this interview. I couldn't tell anybody. Family, friends, big NDA. I couldn't tell anybody about the project. It was like Christmas Eve for 6 months. It was brutal. And then it comes out and you're like, all right, cool. This is exciting. And then to hear myself in the game, it's kind of surreal. There is one thing that they did not do that I wish they would have. Like, I had a couple of things that I've said. I want some unlockables, right? I want floppy hair Dirk to be an unlockable in the game. And it turns out there are unlockable versions of him in the game. There are some legacy Mavs players in the game. Now, I had recorded their names during the recording sessions, but I wasn't sure who was going to make it in. I wasn't sure which of my phrases were going to make it in, which of my announcements were going to make it in. That game is the only time that I've announced any opposing player in the NBA as if they were a Mavs player, because I had to do it for every player in the league because of the trades that you can affect in the game. So there is audio of LeBron James making a basket as a Dallas Maverick and me announcing LeBron James with big Mavs energy. I will say there are a couple players in the league. It was kind of hard to get excited for him because, but that's the only time that I was able to actually say players' names with that kind of energy.
So Mavs fans who play 2K maybe do some trades and they could hear you
and you can hear me announce. You can hear kind of how I would announce another player's name. Now, again, I didn't really work up a bunch of nicknames and, funny calls and signature stuff for these guys because there's just too many, right? I mean, there's 450. It's just too many.
Did you have to do legends and free agents and everyone?
Yeah, I got to do legends. So I got to do the starting lineup intro for Dirk again. And I teared up in the booth when I did that because I never thought I was going to get to say that again.
Wow.
The Big Daddy tall baller from the G. I never thought I was going to get to say that again. Unless somebody, wink, wink, wants me to go to Canton. Not Canton, because he's not going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I was just seeing if you're paying attention. To go to the NBA Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame. When he is inducted, I'm going to be there one way or another. If I have to walk up there, I'm going to be there for that. But if somebody wanted me to go and introduce him, I wouldn't say no.
I like it.
But yeah, I also got to say names like Kareem and Magic and Larry Bird and Michael Jordan. I mean, come on, man. It was cool. It was very cool to get to do that.
That's super awesome. As an MFL, what have you made of the offseason?
I like it. Sometimes to move forward, you got to clean out the filters and, you got to dust everything off. You got to make some changes. I think bringing Nico Harrison in is a great move. No, I love Donnie. He was here for 24 years. I love Donnie Nelson. I think he engineered some fantastic moves for the franchise, and we'll always be grateful to him for the championship. Bringing Nico in is a great move. As the NBA changes and the generations of players sort of change, I think Nico's a perfect addition. And I'm willing and very comfortable with being patient. You're not going to hit, the home run everybody wants to come. That doesn't happen financially, organizationally. That's not going to happen in day one. But he's a fantastic addition to the franchise and to the culture. J. Kidd, thank you for the championship, J. Kidd, because we don't win that championship without Jason Kidd. We don't win it without Sean Marion. We don't win it without Tyson. We don't win it without JJ. You just don't win it without those guys. And so to have Jason back as the coach, I truly think there are maybe 5 or 6 people on earth who see a basketball court the way Luka does. Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, Chris Paul, I think, sees the floor that way. Lonzo Ball sees the floor that way. I think his little brother, LaMelo, sees the floor that way. There are not a lot of guys who see the floor the way those guys see it. It has to be a genetic, optic nerve, sort of Matrix, Terminator, something interface they got going on. I don't know what it is. But to have Jason Kidd, Hall of Fame point guard, who would try stuff in games just to see if it would work. I saw him throw a 3/4 court pass like he was bowling, where he threw it and put a top spin on it to have it hit the court and bounce in between 2 defenders to hit an opposing player. I think it was Matrix in stride on a fast break. I've never seen that before, and he did it in a game. Not in practice, in a game. He just I'm going to whip this out now. Whoop. I had to rewatch the game at home because I did not believe that I had actually seen what I just saw. That's Luka playing basketball jazz. And I think Jason Kidd's the perfect coach for Luka. Reggie Bullock, great defender, really, really good three-point shooter. I'm on board with that. Sterling Brown, a name very few Mavs fans know of, unless they're SMU Mustang fans as well. Welcome home, Sterling Brown. What's up, playa? And I have a special place in my heart for Sterling because I also announce SMU men's basketball. So that's legacy, man. Welcome home, man. Let's go. Good defender. Also, excellent three-point shooter. And I love the fact that nobody's going to see it coming. They don't know what's coming. They have no idea what's coming. I like adding Frank Ntilikina to the training camp squad. He's 6'4". He has a 7'1" wingspan. That's ridiculous. And he loves to play defense. So to bring him to a team where he's not going to have to be expected to carry the team offensively, the team's better. KP's been working like crazy in the offseason. He's going to be healthy. I say they take the bubble wrap off of him and just turn him loose. I'm very, very optimistic about this season. I really am. And no, I'm not wearing glasses, so you can't say. And I don't have in rose-colored contacts either. I am clear eyes, full heart. I'm really optimistic about this season.
Some really good points. Do you think Frank maybe Kidd could fix his shot as well? Because Kidd is someone who, struggled with his shot early in his career. And
you mean Ace and Kidd, that old joke? Yeah. I don't know that Coach Kidd is going to be the one who fixes Frank's shot because I don't necessarily think his shot is broken. I think the situations he has been in have not been optimal for him. Dirk Nowitzki, in my mind, one of the 12 greatest players in NBA history. I don't think he has the same success if he had gone to Milwaukee instead of coming here. I don't think he has the same career. I really don't. Would he have spent his whole career in Milwaukee? Probably, because that seems to be the way Dirk was wired. But does he have the same career? I don't think so. I think his career happened because of the players that passed through his as teammates, the coach. I think, everything, all the pieces had to come together. And I think Frank just has not been placed in the perfect position for him to succeed. But if there is a guard who can figure out the best offensive way to use Frank Ntilikina, Jason Kidd's top of the list.
And a possible hidden gem of the offseason, do you think, are you excited about Moses Brown as well?
You know what? Generally, when someone has a 20-20 game, that gets my attention. Really, it does. When you consider that, I think that game he had, I want to say it was like 19 and 18 in the first half, and he was the first player to hit those numbers since Shaq in like 2001, if I remember correctly. Those guys like that don't happen now. Grain of salt, tap the brakes. It was a late season game for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Nobody was playing their best players. Everybody was tankathon. I get that. But he did it against guys who are NBA players. He didn't do it in the G League. He did that on an NBA court against NBA players. And rumor is that he's been spending some time with Tyson. If you want a center to teach you how to be a pogo stick, how to get those rebounds, and more importantly, how to run a defense, because Tyson Chandler ran that defense. He was the linebacker on the court for that defense. I mean, if you can't tell, I love Tyson Chandler. TC, come on, man. So excited to have him and have JJ involved again, to have Dirk involved in whatever Dirk wants to do. If he wants to announce, I will get out of the way. Dirk is the one person I'm like, you want my seat? Let me dust it off. Go right ahead. So I'm excited. I like where the franchise is headed. I like the changes. I'm not against any of the changes that took place. I like the addition of the capologist, Mr. Baker. Big fan of that. It's just been win after win after victory after victory after victory. This is one of my favorite off seasons since I joined the team, really, overall.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a segment of the fan base that has backlashed, and then there's been kind of another segment that's been on your side.
And the segment of fans that are the backlash, stop letting fear run your life. Okay? It's going to be okay. It's all going to work out. I promise. It's going to be okay. I'll tell you the same thing that I told everybody in September of 2010 before the season started. That season, I said, I will worry about the Miami Heat when we see them in the NBA Finals. I don't need to worry about them before then. I don't need to worry about the roster that the Lakers have put together. I'm not worried about the roster. Everybody wanting to go and, front run and bandwagon with the Nets. I'm not worried about that. Those are both great teams. They look like all-star rosters from 2010. Okay, this isn't 2010. This is 2022 coming up. Okay? I have one of the top 3 players on the planet right now in Luka Doncic. I have in my mind one of the top 20, 25 players in the league, Kristaps Porzingis. I have in my mind one of the top 50 players in the league in Tim Hardaway. I have in my mind one of the top 5 coaches in the league. I have in my mind one of the best GMs in the league. And I have undoubtedly the best owner in professional sports, not just in the NBA. Nobody wants to win more than I do, but my owner, my coach, my GM, they want to win as much as I do. And as long as they care as much as I do, I'm okay with it.
It's a good point. Do you have expectations? Do they need to win a series this year for it to be a success?
I think they always need to win a series. I think they have a good shot if, knock on wood, that's an old joke. I do that for my daughter. She thinks it's stupid. If we can stay healthy, and by healthy I mean not lose 4 players to 2 or 3 weeks for COVID. If we can avoid the nagging injuries that sort of hampered Dwight and Maxey, if we can stay relatively healthy, I think the Mavericks realistically will be a top 4 seed in the West this season. And that's good enough for me. If I can be a top 4 seed, then I believe if we are a top 4 seed, because I ain't going to be anything. If we are a top 4 seed, I believe we'll win at least the first round. And I think the Mavericks, as hard as it is to say a team with Luka Doncic can surprise people, I didn't think Slovenia was going to come in 4th at the Olympics. And yet they did. So I will never count a Luka Doncic-led team out until they're actually out. I think a first, second round win, I'm greedy. Keep in mind, Luka's 22. We're actually ahead of schedule based on logic. Luka's not logical. He's a different thing. He is a completely different animal than we have seen in the NBA for a long, long time. Yeah, I think we win a first-round series. I don't care who we're playing. I think we win a second-round series. I don't see any reason the Mavs can't make it to the Western Conference Finals, but I'm not putting those expectations on them, but I'm not ruling it out either.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, as well, when you look at the Western landscape, especially, I get it was COVID year, it was bizarre, but the West in the playoffs was wide open. I mean, I think the Utah Jazz missed out on a golden opportunity themselves.
I think if Utah and Denver were both healthy, Phoenix doesn't make the Western Conference Finals for sure. And I think if we have 1 or 2 bounces go our way, we beat the Clippers in the first round for sure. They were terrified in Game 3. They knew their season was over if they lost that game. And in that first quarter, they were helpless. They had no chance. Their season was over 8 minutes into that game. It just was. But that was last season. Why are you trying to make me cry? You said you weren't going to make me cry this interview. Man, I trusted you.
Oh, you talked about it briefly, but are you expecting a full kind of Kristaps rebound, bubble wrap off, like you said, and just kind of an explosion from him?
I do. I do expect, because I don't think Chris's issues were entirely physical. And I think the reason that he may have had some of the doubts or lack of confidence was because he wasn't able to get out there and do what mentally he knows he can do. He knows what he's capable of. People forget, last year was the best offensive career across the board in Kristaps Porzingis' entire NBA career. Offensively, best year of his career. Defensively, that's mental. That's confidence in his knee. That's confidence in the system. That's confidence in the people who are supposed to have confidence in him. I'm excited because this season we're going to see a version of Mavs basketball that we haven't seen. Because I think Jason Kidd has some ideas. I think he knows ways. As a point guard, he knows the best places to put KP. And if he turns Luka loose, cover your heads, because it's going to get freaky.
And Luka is the Las Vegas odds MVP favorite again for back-to-back years. How do you feel about that?
I agree. If we don't have the illness, if we don't have the COVID catastrophe that happened to us in the first month of the season, if we don't have a couple of injuries that happened, the Mavs win, let's say, 6 more games, they're a 4 seed. And I think Luka wins the MVP if he does that, takes a team in their second season back in the playoffs after being out for a while, puts up the numbers he put up. By the way, he is currently the career leader in points per game in the playoffs. Now, he hasn't played 25 games, so he doesn't qualify to be ranked as number 1. Come on. Like 35, 8, and 7. Nobody puts up those numbers in the playoffs, and he did it. Basically, he did it with KP having been taken out of the equation. Not because of KP. That's just the way that series played out. I mean, I've said it. I'll continue to say it. Luka's one of the 3 best players in the solar system right now. And I can say that because I don't know what they got going on Saturn. I don't know. They might have guys that are 9 feet tall with 6 arms. I don't know. But on this planet, among these humans, he's top 3 in the world at what he does. And so, yeah, I think there's a reason he's the odds-on favorite.
And last one here, I'll wrap you up too. You mentioned Jason Kidd and Luka. We haven't seen any games yet, but you seem fairly convinced of just that fit. Can you detail that a little bit more? What makes you so confident, right? Without seeing any games.
Jason Kidd is the reason Giannis Antetokounmpo won an MVP. Jason Kidd is the one who made him a guard forward. He's the one who decided to have Giannis bring the ball up. Who else in the league would have done that? Nobody. Nobody's putting Giannis at the point other than Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd understands the space and the chess match of an NBA court as well as anyone ever has. Jason Kidd will coach basketball like a jazz musician. You got to know when to let the trumpet guy, you got to know when you let Shorty do what he's going to do. You got to know when you're going to let the piano player do what he's going to do. Everybody's got their thing. And all Jason Kidd has to do is know when to get the hell out of the way. And Jason Kidd does not have an ego where he will feel he needs to put himself. Jason Kidd, the last thing he wants this season is to be on SportsCenter. He does not want to be on the highlights. He just wants to rack up wins, get to the playoffs, and let's go. That's what he wants to do. He wants to be the best version of Jason Kidd. That's what I want. He wants to be out of the way. That's what I want. He wants to just coach the players. And then once you coach them, you got to let them play. They're called players for a reason. he's not coaching spectators. He's coaching grown men who have skill, talent, finesse, and ability. And I believe Jason Kidd knows when to get out of the way. And so this is one of those seasons. I don't expect Jason Kidd to outcoach himself. He's not going to coach himself into a playoff loss. He's just not. He's too smart for that.
Very well said. Sean, I really appreciate the time. Any final words to Mavs fans, any shout-outs, anything you want to close out on?
I mean, it would be kind of ridiculous and self-serving for me to do one of the things, so I'm not going to do that. Sorry to disappoint everybody. If you want to hear me do that, go get NBA 2K22, or even better, come to a Mavs game here. Come to our house. Come down. We got plenty of space. We will make space for you to come down and be part of the Mavs family. The only thing I would say is this. My really good friend Chris Arnold has said, one of the worst ways to live life is to live it in fear. As a fan, do not be afraid that one of your players is going to be hurt. Do not be afraid that you are not going to be able to get the pieces here that you need to have here. Do not be afraid that your franchise player who just signed a $207 million extension is thinking about leaving. The ink's not even dry on the contract yet. Instead of living, fear is an emotion of the future. Joy is an emotion of the present. So let's be happy. Let's have joy this season. The Mavs are not going to go 82-0. They're just not. But they're also not going to go 0-82. So let's don't live 5 years down the road. Let's live today. Let's live 2021. Let's live the 2021-2022 season. And let's go Mavs.
Amazing. Amazing, Sean. Thank you.
So you asked me if I had a favorite saying right now. Right now, my favorite saying is when Luka does something Luka-like in the lane and the laugh comes out. That was the most organic. It's the most organic thing I've ever done. And it's Luka! It's that laugh because you're like, did he just do what I think he did? That son of a, did he just do that?